All right. So, yeah. You want to do the intro song there again?
Oh God.
Actually,
Yeah,
Why?
it's some weird, I don't
Why
know,
does his sound
normie
like
song.
it and yours was
It's probably a different song. I don't know.
It is a different song.
I think I have the band right, but I have the wrong. Oh wait, that's the song from. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, yours was different.
So tonight we are talking about Arcane and our general impression of the TV show as a whole. We we discussed this quite a bit on whether or not we should just do like episode by episode or whatever, but that's a whole lot to unpack, and that's a lot of recording. So if you would like to hear our thoughts about each individual episode of Arcane season 1, feel free to comment below. If enough of you guys are interested, then maybe we'll do that. But anyways, Brick, what was your general impression of Arcane?
I really enjoyed it. A masterpiece. Very unique, painted art style animation.
True.
Is that how they did that? Like the animation in this show is amazing.
Yeah, it's partially paintings mixed with like overlaid on top of 3D.
It's highly stylized.
Very stylized, very unique. It's not.
Yeah.
You don't really see that done.
I was absolutely blown away by the artistry of the show. Like I'm not a huge anime person. I don't really like. I'm not hip. I mean, the big ones I've seen. The big ones, Cowboy Bebop.
I would argue this is not anime in the Japanese sense. It's very
well. No, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that I'm not really that into like cartoon, whatever. So when I was watching this, like I'm sure there is some kind of anime or some movie or something out there that has used a style like this before. I personally have never seen it, so I was absolutely blown away when I was watching it. I'm like, wow, this is next level. It was crazy.
Yeah, like every frame is like a painting almost.
There's no bloated dialogue. Everything has purpose. The connections, everything makes sense when they're talking to each other.
Yeah, nothing feels unnecessary, right?
It flows.
Right.
Everything, you're supposed to feel things in this certain moment. They don't cut it off or make weird jokes like everything else, like I don't want to say Disney or Marvel or something like that, but competent writing versus immature writing, for sure, in my opinion. Understood what they're trying to come up, the tone that's trying to come across with different characters.
Yeah, they didn't break the well, like you said, there's no better way to say that. They did not break the immersion or the tone of the film that they were trying to set, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right. Also,
and the perfect example is the MCU, like the example that you gave, and that is a very common thing. I can't pinpoint when exactly that started in the MCU.
I don't know.
But eventually, soon, at some point, it became just like commonplace. At first, it was a thing that happened every now and again, and it was poignant and it was funny. It was kind of a way to like break that tension. But now it's like every scene, there's a joke, a joke.
You can't. The drama can't rest for like a beat. You just have to have comedy like shoved in there. I'm just like stop. It ruins the tone. It ruins the characters that you've built up for so long. I don't know.
You were going to say something, Brick?
Yeah, like the dialogue it's done in such a way where like the characters are very unique, and they only say like what's necessary.
Yeah, I get it. This was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I guess before we continue, we should put in like a disclaimer here that I don't know about you two. I have never, not a single moment, ever played League of Legends. That is the game that this is based off of, right? League of Legends.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have either of you?
I
played
haven't
this?
either. No,
I have.
You have. You do not need to know anything about the video game to enjoy this film. I'm sure there are a metric ton of references that are in this film that refer to the video game, but none of them are beaten over your head. None of them, at no point in time was I like, what the hell are they talking about? Right. So it's subtle enough that like the references that are in this film are inconsequential to the actual story because it was amazing. Absolute. I cannot overstate how awesome this series was from a storytelling point of view.
Yeah.
From the game aspect, I haven't played that much League of Legends, but I've played enough where all I know is that the show is based off the characters, like telling the story before the game from the characters. So this is, I guess, one of the stories of Jinx. And then there's also other characters in the show that are also other champions. So they're sort of telling the story of these characters.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I mean, I've never played League of Legends, but I understand what it is. It's, it's like a top-down video game where you run around and you try to kill each other or whatever. You're controlling like the board. I honestly.
Well, yeah, they reference lanes in the show. So
do they?
Because that's what you go down. You have top lane, bottom lane, and whoever jungler or whatever. But
right.
That's the extent of my knowledge of that. But they do reference lanes in the show, so that's probably
And it would make sense that they would. It would make sense that they would put something in there because there is a built-in fan base, so they do want to have their nods. But unlike some other, franchises, for example, Star Wars, they're not beating you over the head with it, right? There's, I'm sure there is fan service, but it's so subtle that I, as a complete, ignorant when it comes to the game, the genre, everything about it, was not off-put at all.
I wish the game was as good as the show.
Yeah, I'll have to take your word for that because again, I haven't played it. But the story was absolutely phenomenal. It was so, I hate to use the word refreshing, but it was so refreshing because I can't remember the last movie I've seen in recent history that like told a story as well as this did. It was just so good.
Yeah, even the fight sequences were really like grounded. They felt realistic.
Yes. I do have 2 points, which I'm sure we'll get to, but there are 2 big points that I would like to make once we get to but before we get there, I have to ask, who was your favorite characters?
You can go.
I guess it would be Jinx. I liked how she developed into Jinx.
I mean, every character is amazing. I think we can all agree on that. Like, I shouldn't say that. Is everyone on board with that? Was there any character that anyone thought was like completely obtuse?
No.
Actually,
everyone had a purpose. Everyone had a different, stylized. Everyone had different motive. Everyone, had little quirks. It's just, when I'm watching things, other things stand out to me, and it's not so much that the well-written characters. I'm just different when it comes to
I think Silco was my favorite. He's sort of what's the word I'm thinking of? He's misunderstood. Yeah, because like when he takes Powder in, he genuinely wants the best for her. I feel like it.
So before we get into that, because we're going to do a brief synopsis though, right? So before we get into that, Silco, you say Silco is your favorite. Yeah. I will also second that because Silco is by far my favorite character in this show. All the characters were amazing, but Silco was astounding. He was absolutely astounding. But yeah, and Siren, what was your favorite character?
I can't decide.
You can't decide?
I can't decide. Nothing. I don't want to say it was like overplayed now, but I just like how he was a father figure to everyone. But at the same time, I do like Jinx and how they played her madness. That she got pushed into madness and everything, but at the same time she's like a bitch. So I don't know. Cut that out. Don't say bitch, but like say like she's a cunt. No, she's a twat. She is unreasonable.
Don't say bitch. No, she wasn't a bitch. She was a cunt. Yeah. No, not that. That's a hard C. We don't want to say that. I love how it's escalating. Yeah, Vander's a solid character, but I mean, he's essentially the Obi-Wan of this. Yeah,
I know that you gravitate more towards like quirky and he injects things into his eye and shit like that. Ooh, I'm sneaky snake. I'm worm tongue motherfucker, right? So,
but yeah, so a brief synopsis of this. We'll just go over real brief because I mean this is an eight episodes. I think it's 8 episodes. It's an 8 episode, so roughly like 7 hours, and it would take too long to go over like the entirety of everything. But the story revolves around two sisters, Jinx and Vi. Okay, Vi is the older sister, Jinx is the younger sister, and they are essentially orphans under the guidance of Vander, who is kind of like a rough and tumble, used to be a vagabond back in the day, but kind of like turned a new leaf. And yeah, so there was, before the sisters enter into the story, there was some kind of revolt, because in this particular setting, in this city that we are in, I think it's called Piltover. And the rest of the story is essentially these two sisters coming together and trying to resolve their differences and this gigantic rift that exists between the two. And along the way, we are also including several side stories that all kind of culminate in a very large clash of the Titans, I guess, which is the denouement of the story. But yeah, that's essentially the brief synopsis. It is far more complicated than that, but we don't want to go into a half an hour of what this show is about. But that is essentially the gist of it. But yes, so Silco. What? I'm sorry.
I'm saying I was gonna say that it's so bad that there's difference in air quality between the two. It's so
Yeah,
the Undercity and the top side.
Yeah. And that's an amazing scene. I think that was one of the last episodes. I think that was like episode like 7 or 8, where he's in there with the council and he injects the room. And you think that he's injecting the room with poison, but it's not poison. It's the ambient air from the Undercity that he's pumping into this council room. And they all start choking to death because they can't breathe it. And Silco's just walking around. And this is part of the reason why I love Silco as a character. Because Silco is not a cut and dry villain. He is not a, like, absolute bad guy. There's plenty of movies out there where, like, you have the bad guy and he is absolutely irredeemable. It is, he is definitively the bad guy. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's very few films out there where the bad guy is relatable and you see him and you're like, it's in the beginning when you were first introduced to Silco, we get that impression, oh, this is clearly the bad guy. He's got a messed up eye, he injects stuff in his eyeball, he's like ruthless, he's cutthroat. And then as the story progresses and you get to know Silco and the motivations and why he does what he does, and the care and love that he puts towards Jinx, like, all of a sudden you're like,
you're rooting for
really
him.
The bad guy?
Yeah, you start rooting for him.
I mean, would you, if you were in the same position, and you were living in a destitute life in those, like, would you, like, really? I mean, clearly he's ruthless. I mean, he has an iron grip on the Undercity, right? But in order to enact the plan he has to. He has to have complete control of the Undercity in order to do what he wants to do. So
true. Yeah,
he is such a complex, like, and there is absolutely no way you could have a character, a villain, an antagonist like this with so much nuance in a 2-hour-long movie. You could not do it. You had to have as many episodes as they had in order to establish that.
Yeah, that's slow burn. Because partly when you're weak, let the weak die, you're Jinx now, you have to be superior to your enemy and become what they fear, right? So
which is kind of a relatable sentiment, really. You have to step outside of, like, our world, though, right? We have to we are in a very, I hate to use the word, but we live a very privileged existence as, first world natives, right? We come from different parts of the world, but we are, all three of us, the mere fact that we are having this conversation on the internet and posting this onto, a streaming platform clearly means that we are in an upper echelon compared to the majority of the world, right?
He ain't lying.
So imagine, I mean, that's the way of life. If you live in an existence like this, where like the very air you breathe is poison, right? The mere fact that you are breathing immediately puts a like
Yeah,
halves your life expectancy.
exactly. The show does a really, really, really good job of setting the scene of how they go through life. Literally scraps of like they go into like the big job that the kids do in the beginning. They just go to somewhere and they just like pick up pots and pans. Well, not pots and pans, but like knickknacks and stuff like that. Like
Right.
anything that looks valuable. It's like that's how downtrodden these people are. Like anything.
Yes, absolutely. It's yeah. I don't want to dwell too much on Silco, but he is an amazingly written character. Amazingly written character. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add, Brick?
No, I would say he's my favorite character next to Jing.
One, I have to say, like, I think my favorite scene with Jinx. Well, there's two favorite scenes. The introductory scene when we first see her as Jinx and she busts out that massive cannon and then starts blowing holes throughout that boat, that airship. I love that scene. And then the scene much later on where we see her like crafting the explosives and she's just like, you get this sense that this woman is bonkers. She is
Yeah.
out of her mind.
The writers did a really good job to portray madness. She got pushed into madness with the motivation of she wants to be, she wants to live up to her expectations in that group, but it backfires so hard on her. And she's like, oh no, like she talks to them all the time, like second guessing because her conscience is fucked. That's why who she's talking to is her conscience. But it's just, there's so much depth to her character that you don't see a lot nowadays.
Yeah.
Even when Vi and Caitlin were walking back to the city and she's just looking at because they have the same hair, the blue hair, and she's looking at her, but then the tinge of like, haha, she's smiling because I have your sister, and she's like, she like blows up, right?
As context, just real quick, because someone may hear what you've said and get a little lost. So the context being that when Jinx was Powder, that's her given name, Powder. So when she was a child, she was called Powder. She wasn't called Jinx until she was adopted by Silco. So Powder there was a heist that her sister Vi was leading along with two of her friends, and Powder was tagging along. And it is debatable on whether or not like who was really at fault. It was more or less just, a bad circumstance and just a lot of things kind of went out of control.
I agree, yeah.
But Jinx believes she is under the impression survivor's guilt. She has survivor's guilt is what it is. The two friends whose names are escaping me right now, I think you said it was Klinger and Milo. They died. And Jinx has survivor's guilt, so these toys that she's making, which Siren was mentioning earlier, she is mentally imprinting their faces, Milo and Klinger's faces, on these toys because she's never gotten over. She feels like their death was caused by her, which is part of the reason why she's so traumatized. I think the writers did an amazing job at like not only just illustrating, not like visually illustrating, but narratively illustrating how complex and how pervasive like trauma like that could be.
Yeah,
which is really difficult to do like on TV. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's why the episodes work out so well because it like little things built up over episodes to that point, that breaking point. The little things being said, misunderstandings behind someone's back because she walks away, this and that. And it's just like...
Wasn't it Vi that first called her a Jinx? Oh,
yes.
No. Yeah, so she loved her sister, and once her sister said it, it really like...
Well, I think it was Milo and Klinger that were, or maybe it was just Milo. It was just the one tall, skinny kid was the one that kept teasing her and kept calling her a Jinx. But it wasn't until
her sister said it.
Yeah, it wasn't until when they separate, when Vi was like so angry and then walked away and said, "You're nothing but a Jinx," something like that. "You're nothing but a Jinx," and then like walked away because she was so angry. She just needed to distance herself. But that's when Silco steps in. And Powder at the time is, traumatized, and she clings on to the nearest adult, which is Silco, and Silco takes her in, and then by the time Vi goes back, they're already gone. So from Jinx's perspective, she was abandoned. And then from Vi's perspective, Powder or Jinx was stolen, right? So they have two totally separate perspectives throughout for the rest of their childhood and up to this point, adult life, until they finally do meet again. And then, they're trying to, Vi at least is trying to explain what happened, and Jinx is having nothing of it, and blah, 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 blah. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that in one of our previous episodes, I mentioned the common narrative that we see nowadays of the, quote, strong female character. Arcane is the best depiction of strong female characters that I have ever seen. Well, I shouldn't say ever seen, but ever, seen within recent history, because there's plenty of very well written strong female characters. But in this particular show, there are many. Like, every female character is a strong female character. However, their gender at no point in time, not once, in all 7 hours of these shows, this film, whatever you want to call it, this series, was their gender ever brought up. Not once. Nor was it ever questioned, the whole political or what's politicization? I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
It was never really driven or beaten over the viewer's head. Never once. And never was a female character uplifted at the expense of a male character. And never was a male character ever uplifted at the expense of a female character.
Yeah.
Right? They were strong based on the merits of their character and the writers who wrote them.
They show women getting punched and even killed in the show is remarkable to me, where they don't do it anywhere else. Vi she struggles. She doesn't automatically have I don't know. She's kind of strong though, but she struggles in her own, her power. So she's kind of I don't mean power like her strength and stuff. It doesn't come off as Mary Sue at all.
Right.
And even Jinx, Powder, she fails, but now, she got pushed. She pushes herself. She still fucks up even with that new crew, because that's just how she is. But she does finally get her contraptions to work.
Yeah.
I don't see any Mary Sue in this. Well, maybe the main council lady kind of. I don't know. She is annoying to me.
Well, I mean, even her, that's another
who, Catelyn?
Again, yeah. Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the girl who got in a relationship with
Jace?
Yeah,
with Jace?
I think it's her.
Yeah.
She even had her problems, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she had the problems with her mother, right? So I mean, she had all this weight, and not only that, but I believe she was excommunicated. That's why she was sent.
She was.
Yeah. So she's got a whole lot of baggage going on too. But and I really like that. They take the time to everyone has their thing. Everyone has Victor,
Yeah, Victor.
I mean,
that
dude, start to finish, that dude's totally screwed, right?
They don't hold back though. They kill all animals. They don't. This show, I wasn't expecting them to do anything crazy with this show, but they don't hold back. And I felt sorry for that animal. I'm like, oh my God, please don't kill the animal. After she shot the bird. I'm all, okay, you shot a bird. Oh God. But now, that animal, that toothless looking animal, I'm just like, bro, please don't kill that animal.
Well, that's also part of his trauma, right? And it's every character. I mean, I loved Vi. I absolutely loved her. It's such a hard toss-up for me between Vi and Silco, but they're amazingly written characters for totally different reasons. But Vi is an amazing character because we have our quintessential strong female heroine that stands on her own merits. She's got her own baggage. She's like you said, she's not a Mary Sue. She requires the assistance of so many characters in order to accomplish the goals at hand. She has her flaws. She's hot-headed. It's not like we're seeing Rey from Star.
Yeah.
I mean, it's complete polar opposite. I wish that the people who wrote the writers for Star Wars, the recent films, watched this show and I wish the writers of this show wrote that. Like,
I
I
think
really
it was only
wish.
2 people too.
You know what I feel?
'Cause-
That one of the reasons why this is so good, like League of Legends, I know you guys both said you haven't played it, and I haven't really played much of it, but it has such a huge fan following. It's so massive. It's one of the biggest games that I think the people that made this show are really big fans of the lore.
Oh, okay.
That's just I would assume so. Like they
So they didn't want to fuck it up.
right.
They're true to the lore.
And the game itself, like they were excited to be a part of this project because they enjoyed League of Legends so much.
I would like to point out that this is probably I'm sure there's others if I looked, but this is the first one I have personally ever seen off the cuff. Arcane League of Legends is the only movie or series, anything, that I've seen on Rotten Tomatoes that has 100% from critics and 96% from the audience.
Oh, wow.
I have never seen that before. That is absolutely like flabbergasting.
Because I know it did better than the previous League of Legends. Was it Dragon something? We should try and watch that one. Can I go back to okay. So currently in, today's storytelling, they like to, hey, do you like these 2 people? We're going to ship them together. But the stuff between Vi and Caitlyn was so organic to me. I'm all, okay. I like them together. Like, otherwise, they just go, these are lesbians. Let's go. You like them now.
But
in this show,
extremely subtle. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. It is very
I'm
subtle.
all,
They didn't beat you over the head with it. And I think it was episode 4 or 5. I think it was episode I can't remember what episode it was. But where they go into the brothel, right?
Yeah.
So the and Vi tells her, is like, you think that people are just going to give you what you want, and that's not how the real world works. You have to, you got to have something that they want that you have in order to get what you want that they have. And Caitlyn's like, well, what do I have? And Vi circles her and he's like, you're hot. And then she's like, well, what's your flavor? Do you like guys or girls? What will it be? And then the one person walks up and she just like, jams them together. And then Vi walks off, has a conversation with that other character, then comes back. And as Vi comes back, we see Caitlyn on a couch with someone else, which happens to be a woman, and they're flirting with each other. It's subtle. It's very subtle. It's not, and it's only like, I mean, if you blink, you miss it, right? So it's very subtle. And I really appreciate that, It was very, 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 everything about this show was just so amazing.
Yeah.
I've recommended this to, I don't know how many people. I've even recommended it to you, Brick, a few times, like in the past, until you finally watched it. And then you ended up watching it, like twice in a row or something?
Like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a good show. Like, I was so astounded. I told everyone within earshot that would listen to me about how amazing this show was. That's how impressed I was.
Yeah, the setups and the payoffs are just wow. It just makes you want to check out whatever things that the writers have done. Actually, I'm actually gonna look that up after we record this. One other thing that I liked about the show is that the animators, they tried different scenes of storytelling. Like when Vi and Caitlyn were taken, right? They had the bags over their heads. And you you see the shifting of whoever has the bag on their head and they're talking. I just like the way that they formatted the storytelling that way and different angles and how they did all I just like that. It's very creative.
One of my favorite scenes, which I like, it's as you're talking about this, that just popped immediately into my head and is so vivid, is not only just because of the music, but also because the way they cut it. Right, is masterful. I don't want to say editing because they drew it, right? How much editing, but I'm not an animator, so I don't know. But the scene between Echo and Jinx when they face off, that scene was amazing. Echo, in case anyone doesn't know, Echo is he's a black kid who grows up with Vi and Jinx. They grew up like all together. Then they all get separated, and Echo joins this like fringe group called the fireflies, I think they're
Firelights.
called. Firelights, that's it. And from my understanding, because I had to look this up, because again, I don't know anything about this game. Echo is time. He's got like a gizmo that allows him to like do like time control or time manipulation or something like that. And it's reflected in the show as well, but it's extremely subtle. You wouldn't know it because he drops the watch and he does this like tick-tock maneuver, like where the watch is like going back and forth like the hand of a grandfather clock. And you see this jumping back and forth between present day, where they're like facing off against each other. Jinx and Echo are facing off against each other. And then like a game that they would play when they were young. Like you see Jinx as Powder as a young girl wearing a pot on her head like a helmet, and then you see Echo and their kids, and they're trying to like, they're playing gunfights and stuff, and then it clips over to them like in present day and they're fighting as adults, and it just keeps going back and forth. And the music that they conducted for that scene, or that they wrote for that scene, was absolutely amazing. It just fit it perfectly. I love that scene. Amazing scene. I really like that character. I love, because, you know, and if you pay attention to that scene, and this kind of ties into what we were talking about, or what I was mentioning earlier about like the callbacks, how subtle it was.
Yeah, because they have history. Because the flashback, she shoots him at that time, but now he learned from that because of their interaction. Now she does not get him in his chest, right? So he knows to, you know, maneuver around that.
Well, the question is, see, it's good that you say that, but the question is, did he learn or did he use his time power? So that's what I meant, like for the references to the game, because I guess in the game he can like do some kind of like time jump or whatever. So the question is, when you watch that scene, and I challenge everyone, not only here but also listening, watch that scene multiple times and try to decide yourself: is it because he's learning from the past and he's like kind of like predicting what she's doing, or did he use the watch, because that watch he has, did he use that to like time skip back a few seconds to get that shot off? But it's so subtle, you don't know. Is that like a reference from the game just for people who've played the game and know it? Because the first time I watched it, I didn't know any better, but then I read about his character. Yeah, he's a character in the game. Then I read about his character in the game, and I'm like, oh, did he use his superpower? Is that why he did that? So, you know, again, that's one of those things. It's like, is it a reference, or, you know, but if it is a reference, it's so subtle, you don't have to know anything about the game to get it.
Hopefully it's not downhill from here, because it's going to be hard to top that first season.
Yes.
It's really good.
These people came out of left field.
Yeah. They're probably going to have the same people work on the next one, or if they're not even, like, I don't know if they're already working on it, but holy shit.
They damn well better, because these people came out of left field. I went into this expecting absolutely nothing. And by the end of the first episode, I was like hooked. I was so hooked. I got to see the next one and the next one. And then I binge watched this all in one day.
Shout out to that hooker gremlin too. I love that guy. And the guy in the gimp suit. I love that character.
Yeah, the Heimdingers, the Heimerdingers. I think it's the same species as Heimerdinger. They're walking. Yeah, it was very funny.
She's beautiful.
All right, well, closing thoughts. Anyone?
Oh, we should all play League of Legends sometime. Just us three.
Yeah,
we're gonna get shit on. Okay.
Can we?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you? Can you do that?
I think you could have 3v3s. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to check. But
man, whoever we play with is gonna they're gonna be angry. They're like, who the hell
I'm gonna
are
be a
these
feeder
people?
for sure.
You guys,
True.
you guys are gonna carry me.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
But yes, watch this show.
And then
So are we gonna rate this? Are we gonna rate this
out of 10?
Well, I mean, you're the one that started this stuff.
9.9.
9.9. Ooh, what's a 9.9? That's close. What about you, Siren?
This is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is 10 out of 10
I absolutely
sure.
agree. I absolutely 100% agree. This is 10 out of 10 for me. That's how impactful this show was. It was so amazing. Writing is just extraordinary. And again, it came out of left field. I don't know. I have no idea where these people came from, but I hope they just keep pumping them out, because, boy, do we need it. We need stories like this in today's day and age.
Hopefully they'll get better.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. But yeah.
Later. Is that?
And
what should we close with? Should we say goodbye?
No.